command. This is ground unit 118. The ground troops are moving into position. Over.
Ground unit 118, has the Honest John missile arrived yet? Over.
Yes, the Honest John is pulling next to the Nike Ajax. Over.
Have you been able to ascertain the nature of the enemy? Over.
Hits!
That's great, it starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes, an airplane. Lenny Bruce is not afraid. I am a hurricane, listen to yourself, churn world serves its own needs, don't deserve your own needs. Speeding up and on street front, no strength, the matter, stop the clatter with fear, fight down, high. Player in a fire, represent the 7 games and the government for hire in a combat site. Lefter wasn't coming in a hurry with the furies breathing down your neck.
Team and team reporters baffle Trump, tether crops, look at that low plane. Fine, then, overboard population, common food, they don't do, save yourself, serve yourself, world serves its own needs, listen to your heart bleed, tell me what's the rapture and the reverend and the right.
Right, you patriotic slam fight, I feel it, pretty sight. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine.
6 o'clock TV hour, don't get caught in foreign towers. Slash and burn, return, listen to yourself, turn.
Lock it in uniform and put burn your blood, loving every motor escalate. Automotive accelerate, light a candle, light a motor, step down, watch your heel crush. Uh-oh, this means no fear, cavalier, renegade, steer, clear a tournament applies. Offer me solutions, offer me alternatives, and I decline. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine. I feel fine.
command. This is ground unit 118. The ground troops are moving into position. Over.
Ground unit 118, has the Honest John missile arrived yet? Over.
Yes, the Honest John is pulling next to the Nike Ajax. Over.
Have you been able to ascertain the nature of the enemy? Over.
Hits!
That's great, it starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes, an airplane. Lenny Bruce is not afraid. I
All right, let's get a voice check. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Baranka Tower, can the world hear me? Oop, turn that down. Got my little extra monitor down here. And that got moved. Pardon the Seasick Express cam here. There we go. All right, guys, great. Everybody's here. Well, let's get rocking. I did put a cobble together some stuff, including that video I had as the intro, which was a lot of fun to put together. It gave you a sneak peek at a few of the models that are in the Cold War missile build. And a couple of guys had sent me some green screen pictures, which the V2 and the Titan. And I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun. Steve, if you're out there, I was supposed to, I think I saw your name up here. I was supposed to send you that video, and it just dawned on me that I got it compiled and didn't send it to you. Sorry about that. You know what? Who wants a sneak peek of the video? Because I was going to send Steve something because he's been helping with some stuff. And I actually went through the trouble of compiling it, and then I didn't. I got sidetracked and forgot to email it. It might have been too big anyway. It's just the opening part. Well, actually, it's kind of I took what I had used for the opening and modified it to make the loop that you saw. So it's kind of there. So I'll show you that in a second. But the bit with the little stop motion soldiers, that was sent to me by a glue trooper whose name I was going to write down to give him credit, and again got sidetracked. But the glue trooper who sent that to me, thank you. He actually, I also, before I get started, very important, muy importante, that ITC Thor missile, we're gonna be talking about it. You saw that video. That's not mine. I actually found that about 20 minutes ago on YouTube. I could not believe the thing was only posted like a week ago. It had 1 view. So guys, I put the link in the, I asked him for permission in the comment section. He hasn't had time to respond. I'm like, you know what? Easier to beg forgiveness than ask permission, right? I mean, I don't monetize this channel, so what can they do? Well, you know, other than have the YouTube police hunt me down like a rabid dog. But, so I went ahead and used it, and I put the link in there. You should go out and give him a view. I mean, it's really, he did a nice job, and I had never actually seen one of those ITC kits work before. We're going to be talking about that later. Let me go ahead and just see if I can find that opening. Now, this might get modified before I finish it tomorrow, but let me go ahead and get that video that I was supposed to, let's see. Just give me a second to hunt and pick through my computer system. And group missile build. Let's see, is this Cold War missile group build opening movie? Okay, guys, here we go. Okay, that's just the first couple of minutes of it. You guys hear me okay? I had to click the mic off so I didn't get a feedback. Like I'm getting right now. Turn that back down. Okay. Oh, the drama, yeah. Neva rocket launchers, that is going back a ways. Yeah, that was the gentleman who did that, uses LEDs, cotton, and some spray paint, and fantastic results. I'm glad you guys like that. That's a tease. That you guys got the sneak peek early, and that's what you get for coming and being here for the beginning of the show. That's your reward. Probably make you guys dizzy doing this. I gotta get the light over there. This was working a minute ago. My desk cam is defying me. There we go. We'll be talking about all this stuff I have to decide that's coming later. So, Rocket Me Amadeus. Oh, man. That is good. You guys are a clever lot. Some of the witticisms that come out of this group never cease to astound me. I did catch one little glitch in there, something, a timing issue, but minor. I'll fix it tomorrow. This thing got so big, I had to break it into 4 sections. I had it all strung out as one thing, but the computer was having trouble keeping up. So I've got an opening, then the research right, then the non-nuclear, then the kiloton, then the megaton, and then I'm going to have a whole thing at the end. I found a bunch of Cold War era songs that are just weird. I mean, old novelty songs. And when I'm done with the actual, viewers build production, I'm just going to take pretty much all the photos, slap them together with no modifications of any kind, just raw pictures, and just put these songs to them. And they'll probably just be like 3-second views each, so you can always pause it if you want to look at one. But a lot of beautiful work coming in. Some folks weren't getting their stuff done on time, so they sent me some before they painted them. Fine with me. We might have towards the end of things still on the shelf, or some are still under production, or maybe I'll just stick them in with the regular ones. I mean, again, this isn't military secrets. The thing is, it's really important to me is that you guys are enjoying the channel and have a good time. That's really what we're here for. And yes, I want cake. Who doesn't? So cheers to all of you guys. A few more pictures will probably straggle in tomorrow, and but I'm thoroughly pumped by the quality of the work and everything that you guys did. It's just beautiful stuff. And I will confess to a certain amount of envy, but when I slow down, I can do a good job. But big fingers, old eyes, old hands. And but the nice thing about old eyes is you don't see the blemishes until you take a photo and zoom it in. Like, yeah, we won't do that anymore. What I already have in the USA, well, it's 7 p.m. here on the East Coast, but it's 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Mountain, and I'm going the wrong way. 7 o'clock here on the East Coast, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, and 4 p.m. in California, the West Coast, and probably less than that out in Alaska and Hawaii. I don't know what they are. The reason I threw a lot of those pictures in that video of me driving the convertible was that song at the beginning. That song was so long, I just ran out of. I didn't want to put all the pictures from the upcoming build in there. Like, run out of, so that was just filler. But I did get to take the Mustang out today just to get my wife and I lunch over at Wendy's. And while I was stopping to get my dry cleaning, as God is my witness, I'm driving with the top down, and Jimmy Buffett's cheeseburger to go get lunch at Wendy's, and Cheeseburger in Paradise comes on. I'm kind of like, you know what? You're driving a convertible in Florida at 72 degrees outside. For once, it's dry, and you're going to get a cheeseburger, listening to Buffett sing about Cheeseburger in Paradise. Life is good. Anyway, back to models. Enough about me. How about you guys? You guys all, I hope you're enjoying some of this wonderful weather. If you saw the thing I did the other day, I just got done 4 days of flying through some just miserable weather. And they had a nor'easter, which fortunately, I thought I was so clever because I dodged the nor'easter, and but it didn't save me where the rest of the weather that blew through Florida. I mean, it was just, this time is supposed to be the good time of year to fly. This is when, like, oh, this is when, the cooler time of year, and you don't get all the bad weather here like you get. And I'm like, yeah, somebody forgot to tell Mother Nature that one, because we certainly had our share of entertainment. And this was my 4 days. Whee! Good times, man. Don't expect these treats every day. But, hey, that's the job. That's why they pay the big bucks, right? Got my Hard Rock Cafe glass. So, well, good. I'm glad you. Oh, good. I'm glad you guys are having some good weather. So, I've got the rockets and the Monkeys Mobile over here. These are the two kits I picked up at Model Palooza, and I was talking to Steve Iverson of Cult TV Man, who helped me a lot with the video I did on Mobius, Monarch, and Polar Lights, and that's one of those videos that there was a lot of material there but it was very confusing because things like Starship Modeler evolved and Cult TV Man, all these things that evolved and mergers took place. And I don't know how many of you guys are Polar Lights fans. I like their stuff. But they had a rocky road. And if it wasn't for Tom Lowe, they wouldn't be here. But if it wasn't for Steve, it's possible Polar Lights wouldn't be here because he was the one that got him to keep the back then when it was bulletin boards to keep it online, which turned into a website. Go watch the video. I can't even keep it straight, and I researched the thing. But Steve, really, really great guy. I enjoyed chatting with him briefly. He was real busy, but he was the only person that had a good supply of Glencoe kits. And for those who don't know, Glencoe that's Nick Argento up in Worcester, and it's pronounced, despite that it's spelled Worcester or Worcester, it's pronounced Worcester. And sometimes because I used to do flights into Worcester, and I didn't realize they were up there, or I would have taken one of my mornings off and gone up and probably bothered him. But he was saying that, that he can sell all the content, all the material, all the models that Nick can send him. But it's, I guess he probably, I'm guessing here that Nick's probably having the same trouble getting styrene as everybody else is. I think that kind of shut Williams Brothers down temporarily. They just can't get the styrene. And yes, this is all related to the beer bug. But, or it could just be that because Nick, remember, runs a business full time, Glencoe is kind of his side thing, and those old molds, some of them are real nightmares to work, and he has to kind of do it himself. He can't hire someone else because it's more art than it is science. And I mean, the man's been doing injection molding since he was a kid. So anyway, when I saw they had that Thor kit that I've been looking for, I went ahead and snatched it and didn't bat an eye. And to be honest, I didn't even look at the price. But I thought later on, and of course I forgot who it was. I remember Gene was the guy that was selling it to me. And Gene, if you're out there, hi. That one of the vendors was selling all these model cars for $15 a piece. And well, that's the time to strike. Because I've been meaning to get a Monkeys Mobile. And anyway, so what I thought we might do a little bit later is I already took the cello off these and opened them up and did a little look inside. I thought we might go through these kits a little bit later, just kind of look at them. And I got my old Revell Mercury or Redstone rocket here because we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But monkey. So the by the way, I know I did the video on Model Palooza, which by the way I did that video on my phone, which is why it's a little stilted and everything. But that was the first actual, I guess you would call it a convention or show, whatever I've been to, and it was a blast. And a shout out to Trey of Trey's Models who gave me this neat little glue holder for Tamiya glues, which is, you can't really see it, but it says Trey's Models right there. I guess, I don't know if that's 3D printed, but anyway, thanks Trey. But it was, I bumped into 4 or 5 people who recognized me from the channel, and that was really, what's the word I want to use? I guess fulfilling. I was just thrilled that the people came up and said hi and were were enjoying the channel. It means a lot to me that there are different kinds of currency in the world. Like for a scientist, their reputation is their currency. For a banker, currency is their currency. For me, it's just knowing that people are enjoying the channel. That's really the only reason I keep, well, that and it's fun to do, but that's why I do this. And I'm was just really thrilled that there were people that were enjoying the channel. And of course, I don't mind being recognized as, finally my star is being appreciated. But it was really neat and had a blast. I was only there a couple hours because some of the stuff was already starting to wind down because that was, the day I was available. But my hat's off to IPMS in Orlando, and I'm going to start looking at JaxCon and some of these other things. Did you do any Zvezda or ICM kits? I think I did. And that was Tacoma. The Rata, that P1000 I built was Tacoma. I actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think ICM may be that kit that I took on the road with me and realized it was too detailed for the tools I had and brought it back. I think that was ICM. No, I'm thinking a KP. Well, no, that might have been ICM, but I did build a KP kit, but those are repops of other molds. But Zvezda seems. Did I do a bio on Zvezda? God, I've done so many of these things, I can't remember which ones I have and haven't done. Sometimes I think about doing one, and I have to go check and make sure I haven't already done it. But speaking of which, I need to get back to doing some history videos, but just so many hours in a day. And all the low-hanging fruit is gone. Most of the companies that have a lot of material out online that were easy to research have been done, so now I'm really digging. Just read some of the comments here. ZTS model kit, the Polish one. Nope. No, I don't think so. I did do one on the on modeling in the old Soviet Union with a couple of companies there that were... Oh, thanks. Sci-Fi Engineer. Yes, thank you very much. I'm glad you made it. Guys, Sci-Fi Engineer is the one who built that... he built that Thor and made it work. And really nice work, too. To get everything to work, because we all know how much fun it is to make plastic models function, given the delicacy of the parts. Now, ITC, which I did do a bio on, was big about quote-unquote play value. They wanted their... And I have the Glencoe copy of their Explorer 1, which a little crank handle, so it turns around and has all the innards. Now, I did not put the innards in it because I was just making it for display. But, which was, I would say, we're going to talk about a Holy Grail kit, and that is the ITC Thor. Now, since I'm talking about that, let me go ahead. There's a good time to start this. Where is it? Okay. We all know, no, that's wrong Thor. Here's the ITC Thor. This is the kit I'm talking about. This is the ITC Thor. And I don't know what scale it is. There was no scale listed. It looks to be a round HO scale. And this thing, there's one you're going to see up here. In fact, I'll pause it when it comes up here. There's one on eBay right now that it says has issues, but apparently it's fairly complete. And Sci-Fi Engineer, if you want to chime in here and talk about building that, because there's the metal part. Here's screws and electrical components and motors and everything. Okay, there. Whoops. Okay, that was not supposed to happen. That was supposed to pause it. All right, let's try that again. They want $2,000 for this thing, and they even admit it's got quote-unquote issues. That's not supposed to happen. That's when I hit that, it's supposed to pause it. Anyway, you can go out. I found it just by Googling, but that the instruction sheet and everything on that and putting it together and getting everything to work, that had to be tricky. Although I will say, from the little bit of experience I've had with ITC kits, is that they are pretty well engineered. At least given that these things came out in 58, I think. Of course, you're dealing with the best of 1958 electronics technology also. So there you go. Hey, Simon. Nah, don't apologize. Never apologize for being late. There is no late here. I was going to say do or do not. There is no try. Okay, but I got that one thrown back at me the other day. I don't know if you guys know what there's a Latin dessert. I know I'm completely veering off on a tangent, but stay with me. You'll get a tickle out of this. You guys know what a churro is? It's a Latin dessert. It's kind of like a straight donut with deliciousness on the inside. Anyway, covered in sugar. A couple of days ago, I was at a place in St. Petersburg, and it's called 11 Chicks. Now, my wife is from Venezuela, and this was a Venezuelan place, but it's carry out only. But everybody says you got to get their churros. So I got some churros, but I was going home that night. So they gave me 6 of them, and I tried one, and they were absolutely heavenly. By the way, they also gave me, I got a pork arepa, which was, if you notice, a thing that looked like a messed up cheeseburger in the picture. I don't know why I put that picture in. It was just filler, literally. And that was the arepa, and it was packed full of pork, but another story. Anyway, so I told my wife I got some churros, and, bring them home. And I was like, well, I'll try, but they're awfully delicious. And she shipped me back the meme of Yoda. There is no do or do not. There is no try. Hey, 4 of them made it home. That's pretty good. And believe me, they were just as good reheated. Okay, back from that tangent. My dad built the ITC. I remember playing with it. I don't recall us having finished the... Yeah, me too. I would love to see Nick put that... God, he could sell those things all day. I have no idea what happened to the molds. For that matter, someone could just make their own... I say make their own molds. I'll bet you the molds for that ITC Thor, conservatively, those molds ran $40,000 back then because there's so much to them. And I would love to hear about... you can send... By the way, guys, you can always email at maxsmodels@yahoo.com, and I'd love to hear about building that thing, problems you ran into and stuff. That would be a video by itself. Because that is a holy grail kit. They want $2,000 for this one, and it's not even, it's got, quote, it just says has some problems. I don't know if it's missing parts or... I'm going to do a little hostage exchange here. I had my cocktail, now I'm just drinking tap water. So, the ITC kit of the CVN65 was a nightmare. See, these are the kinds of things that I realize we didn't have cell phone cameras back in the day, but today it would be nice to hear about what it is about these kits that was tough. And I get it with the working. Like I said, the only one I've done is the Explorer 1, and it was pretty straightforward. It was just crank handle, nothing electric or anything. But yeah, I'm sure missing parts. And that's a problem. When you try to make working components out of plastic, we all know how delicate you have to be. And I thought about converting out when I was doing the Godzilla versus the Wehrmacht. I considered taking my Mark IV monogram Panzer and making it putting a motor in it. But then when I looked at where the parts join and everything, and the actual bogies and rollers wouldn't be that much problem. It's the aft idlers that would be the real trick. I was like, nah, it's just too much work. And you can buy one for 1/16 scale from Henlong for about $140, and it's just not worth it. Churros a Spanish donut, yeah, pretty much. They are good. It's hard to go wrong with a churro. Gotta get this phone plugged in and be right back. Okay, Bill, hurry up and come back. We're not waiting. So, anywho, this ITC kit, I was thrilled to see the video on it just because I never knew exactly what it did. You always see the advertisement in the box. And now that I've actually seen it, I'm like, oh, good, Now I actually know what it, what all the hubbub is about, and it's impressive. I got to admit, it is impressive. So thanks for that. I appreciate it, and so does everyone else. I went to ScaleMates for the ITC kit list, and the one thing it doesn't have is a scale on it. It actually says no scale. and I'm not sure why. But anywho, so speaking of the Thor, which I don't know why, I've always found that. I find the old missiles interesting, the old rockets, I guess because it was the pioneer era and everything was new back then. But virtually every company out there has made the Thor. I mean, it was really a well-represented missile or a rocket. Or you got the upper left is Aurora. Next to that, you got Adams, which became the Glencoe kit. Then, of course, you've got the one from ITC and the one from Glencoe. Sorry, excuse me. Then you got Revell, which re-released it. I don't know if the original Revell had the launch pad and everything and the tower. We're gonna see when we go to the Glencoe kit. I'm gonna talk about that when I get there. It doesn't have a tower. Monogram's only Thor that I could find was in their space missiles, but they also had the mini space missiles. That's the bottom center, the yellow and red one, and that was 5 rockets instead of the whole thing. And then you got Newware and Liftoff series, which are newer ones, by Mach 2, which is resin, I believe. But it's a really, really well represented system. And what I was a little surprised at is that, and of course the Thor, probably one reason it's so well represented is that it got used for so many things. It was all the satellite launch of Thor Ables, which is what the History Maker series there has. I think it has a Thor Able. And I'm sure you guys know that rockets and missiles are often the dual names are the payload, and the various stages. So Thor Able is the primary first stage, the Able is the second stage, and then you have whatever the payload is. And it's like you have Mercury, Redstone. Mercury is the capsule. Redstone was the rocket. You got Apollo, Saturn. Or, Apollo capsule on a Saturn rocket. Gemini, Titan. Gemini capsule on Titan missile, so on and so forth. So the Thor wound up being the basis for a lot of things, and I think it evolved into the Delta II. And in fact, I think they eventually changed the name to Delta because when it started carrying scientific payloads, they didn't like the military connotation. So that's when it became the Delta. But it was pretty highly modified by then. But it turned out to be a far more flexible program than a lot of them. When you get it right, you stay with a good thing. What was not represented, which I find equally interesting, was Pershing. Now, I talked about this earlier. Pershing, the Pershing 1 and the Pershing 2, were in Germany, and I had friends, people I served with, and family friends who had served in Pershing missile units, either as security details or whatever. Obviously, being a nuclear weapon in Germany, that got to be a bit controversial. In fact, when Pershing 2 came out, I remember about the time I was getting out of the Army, 83, 84, I think, there were a bunch of, we'll call them peaceniks, that were like trying to block the missiles from getting deployed and standing in the road, and the trucks had to drive through. And anyway, it was a bit of a thing that but the Pershing was around, the system was around a long time, and there's only a couple of kits. This is from a company, I hope I'm saying this right, Shizukyo. Anyway, and that company was only around a few years. And somebody said there was another kit, but in 1/32nd scale, but I haven't found it. And I find it interesting that Thor gets all this representation. Pershing basically gets ignored. Yet it probably spent the helicopter flying overhead if you hear some background noise. It was around for a long time and did a very important mission, but I guess it did it fairly quietly. What is the most somebody's asking, Max, what is the most you've ever paid for a kit? That's a good question. Well, I know it's north of $50. What's the most I've ever paid for a kit? I might have paid more for that than that for some kind of vintage kit or something. I paid $45 for my little Cherokee from Aurora, which was a 65-cent kit. I I know I paid $50 and something for my Polar Lights Godzilla. And yeah, it's funny. I just don't kind of remember those kind of things. That's the most I can remember paying. I'm sure I paid more than that for something, but nothing's coming to mind. And I bid more than that on stuff that I've lost. I bid a couple of $100 on some Holy Grail kits that I didn't even come close to getting. The only kits that I would probably pay north of $100 for, and not that they're necessarily that valuable, it's just because of the rarity, which creates value. I'd probably pay that for an in-the-box Aurora Russian nuclear bomber, which we all know is actually just a Maya Sheshev. I saw one that had already been built that was on eBay for about $50. I thought about getting it, I didn't build it. So, I mean, it's not that it's that hard to build. It's not that many parts. But it wasn't that important. It's kind of a neat thing. I like the box art more than anything else. And, of course, I'd probably pay a pretty penny for the ITC Thor, but not what people are asking. I might go a couple $100 for it. It's what the value is to me. Fortunately, somebody, a glue trooper, had gifted me that Hawk Beta 1, which was the other one that I wanted, and I really don't want to. I wouldn't have bid that much for it. The thing is that, as much as I love these kits, they don't hold. I guess I'm tight with a buck where that's concerned. But I don't know. You think you'll pay something, you look at it, and you kind of like when the actual kit is available, especially if you can't see it, it's just like an eBay auction or something. You're not 100% sure what you're getting. You're kind of like, yeah. When it comes time to pull the trigger, you can get a little tight. I'm trying to think what the most expensive kit I ever bought is, and I don't know. Wow. That's an interesting question. The irony is it's not a money issue. I imagine most of us could probably buy whatever we want. But sometimes you really want a kit, but you see the price, and you're like, well, is it worth that? And that's different than that's tough. Really, the value of a thing is what someone will pay for it. And a lot of these kits, I had $250 for Johann Holland Hearst. Okay, yeah. I did make an offer, but that was rejected. But I'm sure the offer was probably a little insulting, and thinking back on it, that was probably not an appropriate thing to do. But somebody who worked at AMT, I believe it was, actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but AMT actually did a couple of test shots of the Star Trek Enterprise in glow-in-the-dark plastic. And they did a few test shots, and they decided not to proceed with it. One of the forward-thinking employees of the company saw when they chucked it in the trash, immediately grabbed it. So he has the only, or a couple of the only, glow-in-the-dark Starship Enterprises from Star Trek ever shot by AMT. He didn't build them. He still got them in a bag. And I think I offered him like $300 for one of them. And he's like, nope, those are putting my kid through college. And I was like, yep, I bet they are. But I actually balked. I saw, and I know a couple of people told me to go ahead and buy it, and it may still be up there. I don't have to tell you how a quick price will turn somebody off. I was at Hurricane Hobbies right up the road here, and I mean it's literally like 2 miles from here. And I'm so lucky to have a hobby shop that close, and I know it. Anyway, they had the white box Swiss Messerschmitt 109, and I forgot it was $30 or $50. They're pretty much asking the standard book value for it, and I didn't get it because I drag a $50 model home, but find an excuse to use the intro and the outer limits sometimes. Oh, that's a thought. Yeah, I could do that. I only steal from the best. Oh, by the way, Garfield, I want to give Orange Tabby a shout out. I thank you for, he had sent me a bunch of CDs, which had, amongst other things, a lot of the old show tunes, which I've been using a lot lately. They've been very handy with making the videos. And, so, I don't know. Next time I go up there, if that thing's still there. What kind of ticked me off was they have that Tamiya I think it's 1/48 scale Fiesler Stork, which is a cool airplane. But you know, I think the price is $54. And I know Tamiya makes great stuff, and they got to pay for those expensive molds and all that other stuff. And I'm like, $50 for a model that big, you know, maybe someday, not today. But I've got so much stuff on the shelf, that courtesy of you folks mostly, that I really can't justify anything unless it's just something I can't find, or it's just a super good deal, which would be these two. And so the one thing I did notice, speaking of that, is if you guys, this is the a real Thor on the right, and of course the Glencoe model on the left, which is a repeat of the Adams kit. So really, I should say it's an Adams kit on the left. And you may notice one of these things is not like the other. Something I noticed right away is that the pad for the Thor in the Adams kit, i.e. Glencoe, ergo the Glencoe kit, is the exact same one from the Vanguard, which is a really, by the way, cool pad. But if you notice the photograph on the right, it's not, the Thor didn't use the Vanguard pad. And there may be some modifications to it, but I went and looked at a bunch of pictures, and I get it. Adams was a tool and die company. They cut molds. They were not going to cut an entirely new pad for this rocket. They're going to repurpose the existing one, which, who knows, maybe at some point, maybe it did use that one. And I'm not a rivet counter, so I'm not getting bent out of shape. But personally, I really like the way it looks, and I like that pad. But that is something I noticed, is that it does repurpose the correct pad from the Vanguard. Now, both of them were cut in 58, or at least the models entered production in 58 with Adams. So I'm operating on the assumption that Adams saw an opportunity to market a whole new model just by cutting the mold for the rocket body, which is only a few parts. Speaking of which, let's take a look at it. If you will direct your attention towards the desk cam. Oh, I got to take that picture down, don't I? All right, here we go. Let's take a peek at this bad boy. Now, I did cut the box open earlier. Okay, so we have the instruction sheet. And trust me, okay, move it away. This is the exact same pad from, except it doesn't have the launch tower. It's just the pad. But, and it's a really, really good pad. I mean, the kit goes together well, parts fit well. I do recommend pre-painting it because some parts are black, some are yellow. And if you put it all together and then try to paint it, you're going to have a lot of trouble getting to some of the nooks and crannies. And you realize the instructions are almost complete on the construction pad. This is right here is the sum. Okay, let me dim this light a little bit. Wrong way. Okay. This is the sum total of the instructions on building the rocket. Everything else is on building the pad. And of course you have the instructions for the British version and the American version. And so let's take a quick look at the parts, which of course are bagged. This is pretty much the rocket. There's not a whole lot to it. And it's HO scale. You have your 1:87 character. Nice thing about that. Now, I stand corrected on one thing, though. They do have this modified. This is what the rocket sits on. This part is correct. Okay? I need to point that out. What I'm not sure of is if they ever use the Vanguard style pad. And all this is the launch pad. So it's obviously the far more complex part of the... and some model builders, I noticed a lot of the kits I saw were displayed just on the little round piece there. They didn't even put the... Probably because it wasn't technically correct. And of course you have the British and American decals. So, I look forward to putting that together when I get a chance. Obviously, it won't make the Cold War missile build, but the Thor has been pretty well represented. I'm sure somebody sent me a Thor. Got a lot of Hawks. Excuse me, got a lot of Nike Hercules. I got one Hawk. Couple of Snarks and bow marks. And there's still a few pictures trailing in. So, anyway, I really look forward to getting around to that. And when I get done with training, currently I got about a week off, and I plan to be face down, elbows up, making videos and building models. And let me just read a few comments here real quick. Fins go on sides. Well, that makes sense. A lot of Glencos are out now. I think you mean out of stock. Yeah. I should try to call Nick and see what the hey Kevin. I should try to call Nick and see what's going on. But sometimes I get him on the phone. I've managed to speak to him twice. He's a busy guy. I mean, he's got a business to run and everything. And anyway, I hope he's able to get some stuff out. If those molds weren't such a nightmare to use, I don't know, thought of actually, how can I put this? Not that I'm going to go buy Glencoe or anything like that. I don't mean to even imply that, because I'm absolutely not. But it would be nice if, I mean, he runs his own injection molding company, so he's not going to farm it out to somebody else. It would just be nice if he had some inventory out. Nick, are you listening? We want your models. Make more. But I am guessing that he probably makes more in a day on his regular injection molding business than he makes in a month, on the kits. But fortunately, he's a lifelong model builder and has an interest in the stuff, and that's, it kind of scares me when I think about how many model companies like Glencoe and Atlantis and some of the stuff at Round 2 that they only exist because the guys who moved it are model builders. They're into models. I mean, if it was strictly run by accountants, probably Tamiya, maybe Revell, and Aishima, and a couple of Japanese companies, and some of the stuff in China, be the only ones out there. I don't think we often appreciate that a lot of these model companies exist because the people that are running them, they're not making a lot of money. They just love the hobby, and we're not getting any younger. And that. Okay, Max, the Glencoe Thor is now out. And you mean out of stock, or he's making more and getting them out to people? I am vexed. This vexes me. I'm terribly vexed. So, enlighten me, Kenneth, because I would love to know that he's putting more stuff out. If you include part work models, the Aston Martin DB5 and 1/8 would be certainly the most expensive. 70. Okay, I know that the out to people. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. I was starting to get a little worried. I think Mach 2 has a Thor. I'd say, yeah. I have heard a lot of people complain about Mach 2, and I have one of their kits that I haven't gotten around to yet. I might have to build it just to see if it's as rough as everybody says. Oh, new pattern. Okay. So, let me read a couple of comments real quick. Oh, C-133. That's a cool plane. Yeah, remember, is Monkey Mobile from a TV series? Yes, it is from a television show called The Monkeys. That was Michael Nesmith, David Jones, Mickey Dolenz, and Peter Tork. Sadly, Peter Tork and Davy Jones have passed away. Peter Tork just died recently. And but Mike Nesmith and Mickey... I actually had Mickey Dolenz on my airplane one time. And so, since you brought that up, let's talk about the Monkeys Mobile. Now, as most of you can probably tell, this is a Dean Jeffries custom car. And he did it for the television show. And it was made from a GTO, and Steve, chime in here, but I believe Pontiac damn near sued them because it did not like what they'd done to their GTO. Didn't like the image it was setting. I thought we'd take a quick look at this. I grew up watching the Monkeys in syndication on Saturday mornings. It was originally a primetime show, but that was a little too young. And I might have seen it at prime time at some point. But basically they cut up the trunk and everything and made a 6 plates out of it. And the header, all of this was faux. They might have had one that actually had one. Mike Nesmith, said the thing was terrible to drive. It had small front tires and everything. He hated driving it. The instruction sheet looks like, normal car instruction sheet. And of course we have the chrome components. And I have to file some of that stuff off so the glue will adhere. Now one thing I do like, and of course this is a recent production kit, is that, and of course I've already been in here and cut some of this, is they put this cardboard around the body of the car to help protect it. And got the bullet nose and everything. The monkeys were known as the Prefab 4. I imagine most of you guys already know what I'm about to say. This is for the benefit of a few folks who don't. They were making a television show, and they hired 4 guys to be a band. They were supposed to be portraying, a starving rock group called the Monkees. Well, it turned out that 2 of the actors they hired were musicians. Peter Tork already had a fairly established reputation on the music scene, and Michael Nesmith was also a musician. Davy Jones, the only British member of the band, was an actor. He'd been in the movie Oliver and been on stage. He already had a contract, so he never auditioned. They said, hey, put Jones on that. We need a British guy to help offset the Beatles effect. And Mike Nesmith, Mickey Dolenz had been Circus Boy. He was an actor. He'd been on the television show Circus Boy as a kid. Now he was grown up. And he had to go audition like everybody else, but he got the part. And by the way, it is an urban myth. No, Charlie Manson did not audition for the Monkees. That's a myth that's been going around forever. But they're adamant that no, he did not do that. Although I think Stephen Stills did from Crosby, Stills and Nash. One of the members of Crosby, Stills and Nash didn't get the gig, and obviously wanted to be a big musician. This bag is empty because this had the other parts tree. By the way, I was told recently by one of you guys that by the way, these colors are beige, which apparently is the correct color for the interior, although I'll still paint it. But the interior, despite the way it's often represented in models and stuff, the interior is not white, it's beige. So, yes, it is true. Mike Nesmith's mother did invent whiteout, and he's the one member that really never had to sweat money because he inherited her fortune. He also started a company called Pacific Arts after the Monkees, which its claim to fame was when, I don't know how many of you guys here remember in, I guess it was the early 90s, Ken Burns' The Civil War, the miniseries, made Shelby Foote a household name. Anyway, no, Peter Tork just passed away recently. He did play music and toured. He was in a band, but he died within the past year, I believe. And he and Nesmith apparently never really got along. Don't know what the deal was, but yeah, Mickey was, Mickey Dolenz up front. Yeah, he was having to work for a living. He was a working actor. He had a radio show in Chicago for a while, I think. I think that's him. That's what I think Danny Bonaducci and Sammy Hagar, everybody, these guys, when they can't get any more gigs, they wind up doing radio shows. Anyway, Ken Burns does some great documentaries. Well, anyway, Mike Nesmith's Pacific Arts was contracted to produce all the VHS tapes when people would order the Civil War series. And I remember he did that, and apparently somehow, and it had nothing to do with Ken Burns, but somehow he never got paid for it, and he wound up having to sue PBS or whoever it was, and his company went under as a result, but I understand he got a pretty good settlement out of the deal. So, Shelby Foote is how Shelby Foote had a very distinct Southern accent, which was very much from the Mississippi area where he was from. I should point out that Shelby Foote, and there's a gazillion interviews with him on YouTube. He lived to a ripe old age. He passed away in his 80s from, I think, a heart condition. But his famous claim to Ken Burns was because he was this obscure writer who wrote novels about planters, the place he knew in the Mississippi Delta and everything. And his actual foray into the reason he was interviewing the Ken Burns series was because he had written these 3 volumes, these huge books on the Civil War. And he had actually gotten some kind of a sponsorship to do it, was able to take a sabbatical. It took years to do it. Very well researched. Some people have some issues, but historians always argue, so that's the nature of the beast. Well, Foote, who, by the way, I read his bio. Apparently he was lieutenant in the Army in World War II. And he had gotten so as far as, and he had originally been in the National Guard. And apparently, as I understand it, assuming this information is correct, he was court-martialed and discharged from the Army because he took, without authorization, he took a Jeep to go see a lady friend, and apparently somebody had it in for him, and he didn't have authorization to be off base, and being an officer, they made a deal out of it, and he'd go on to getting sent back home. But anyway, that's Wikipedia knowledge there, so take that for what it's worth. Anyway, Peter's first name, D. Pelt, Thor Kelson. So Foote writes these books, and all of a sudden he becomes a celebrity. When that thing aired, he became a celebrity overnight, and his books started flying off the shelves. And apparently he's interviewed. I saw him say this in an interview. So he's like, "Ken, my boy, you've made me a millionaire." And so the last decade and a half of his life, he was very well to do. And there's a really good interview with him just a couple of years before he passed away in his house. And right there at the desk where he writes everything. And he used a quill pen because it said it makes, when you use a quill pen, it makes you stop and think. And he said, I'm happy if he gets 400 or 500 words a day, which is, 3 pages. But it really makes you stop and think about what you're saying so that you don't constantly go through numerous re-edits. And he was real good friends with Faulkner. I think it was William Faulkner, the writer, and they knew each other very well. And my understanding is that Faulkner never, how can I put this? Faulkner was from the South. He's from that area, but his novels and everything kind of told it like it was. He wasn't trying to put any polish on it. He was not, covering up for it. And as a result, if you went down that part of Mississippi where they lived, and everybody knew where he lived because he was a big star, and he's like, they're like, could you tell me where, William Faulkner lives? And the local, he lives over there, go up to the, they didn't like him because of the way he portrayed the South. But look, I'm a Southerner, trust me. A lot of our history ain't pretty. Ain't, no hiding from it. But, anywho, so there's a deep relationship between the monkeys and Shelby Foote and the Ken Burns story and all that stuff. So back to models. Oh, by the way, the tires. There is, and I saw this on a video, one of these master model builders. I think one of you guys sent me the link and I watched it. And then the name escapes me, and one of you is going to know who I'm talking about. But he's like this world-class kit master model builder. And he actually has what looks like a spray gun. You can buy one, about the same cost as a spray gun. They don't shoot paint. They shoot abrasive. And what you can do is you can spray things like tires and get a flat finish that'll never dull because it's actually an abrasive, but it doesn't remove any of the detail. It just deadens it and flattens it. And I'm like, dude, you are way above my level. But that was, I had never even heard of that before. And I guess you could sort of do the same thing by sanding it, but if you do that, you're going to have sanding stick marks, whereas using this abrasive spray gun, which is not a regular spray gun. On the outside, it looks like a regular spray gun, but it's not. And, gosh, now I'm going to have to find that link and post it. The Monkey's Mobile. In my opinion, Dean Jeffrey's best work, which I'm sure all the car guys are cringing right now. So, guys, I'm going to beg your indulgence. I've been drinking water, and I'll leave the rest to your imagination. So I'm going to be right back, and I will loop that ITC Thor video one more time for you so you can watch that while I'm gone to keep you entertained. I'll be right back. Okay, that's not getting old anytime soon. And the back. I would just be doing that all day long. I'd have to go build myself a little city to go nuke. So, the redstone. Why do I have my little mercury redstone out here? On to other things. I was decided to go ahead and do a little bit of research on nuclear weapons for all of the missiles that you guys sent me, and I got the list. Okay, oh, it's right here in front of me. All right, time to change glasses. I was a little shocked, and then it kind of made sense. Okay, the missiles that have been sent for the vid, I've got Redstone, Snarks, Atlas, Mace, Lacrosse, Nike Hercules, Corporal, Bullpup, Torpil, Temp, those are Russian missiles, Snark, Beaumark, Polaris, and Juno. And of course, the Juno didn't have a warhead. What I was stunned to learn was it's the old missiles that have the more explosive warheads. And when I stopped and thought about it, it kind of made sense. The Redstone and the Snark had 3.8 megaton warheads, which I was surprised. The Atlas only had a 1.45 megaton and the Mace a 1.1. But then I thought about it, the rest of them were all down in the kiloton range. Even the Polaris 600 KT, the Temp 500, and the Topol 800 kiloton. And then I realized, hold on, that kind of makes sense because the Redstone had a short range on it, so it could carry a heavy payload. Those old nukes were heavy, and it only carried one. So that and the Snark are actually the two biggest kabooms. Even bigger than the Atlas, although the Atlas is a much larger rocket, but it had mostly fuel, so it had to carry a smaller, lighter payload, which is why, of course, these were all before they had the MIRVs and the multiple buses and all that stuff that had multiple warheads in them. But I found that interesting. Oh, sorry, speaking. Okay, I found it interesting that the oldest missile in the group actually had the biggest warhead of anything. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That I'm just looking to make sure I got probably just because I was looking down at this thing. But now some of these things like the Hawk, the Nike Hercules could have a conventional or a nuclear warhead, but I'm assuming if it could carry a nuke, I'm assuming it was a nuke. Let me turn this up just a little bit. Okay. And move it a little closer. a little bit closer. So anyway, that was kind of interesting. And the Redstone, it's called Old Reliable. They used that platform for years. I mean, wound up putting Shepard into space. They clustered 9 of them together to make the Saturn 1Bs. It was, nowadays you can stuff 10 warheads of megatonnage on a bus on a single missile. It's just freaking terrifying. You see, I don't remember the TV show UFO. UFO, yeah, we talked about that last time. That was, the interceptors in UFO, those were nukes on the nose. And how do you miss with a nuke? Well, the thing's going, speed of light. But, media, oh, I love you. To me, although Skydiver was cool, to me it was the interceptors. And you think about it, there's a video out there that someone put together of the original concept ships from these series, and that would make interesting modeling subjects in their own right. Now, see if I can find it and link it on here. The original Starship Enterprise was just the saucer section. I kid you not. It was the saucer section with the impulse drive on back that was supposed to be the warp drive, and I guess they decided it didn't look cool enough, and somebody's like, hey, we can get better shots. We put this body and put these motors out on sticks. They had the original interceptors from UFO, which looked like big Gemini capsules with a nuke stuck on the nose and the tricycle landing gear. And I was like, it evolved into what it became, and it was a completely different looking vehicle, except it still had the big inner thing on the nose. And a couple of other concept vessels. I was like, I had no idea that's what these things were. If you're moving at solid speed of light 8. I didn't appreciate as a kid approaching at Sol 20. Wait a minute. They're going 20 times the speed of light? Jeez. Somebody just put a little space dust out in front of them. That'll shred them. But, oh, by the way, did you know that the UFO interceptor had a machine gun on it? When I was building mine, it talked about it had I think it was in the nose, right in front of the pilot. It actually had a conventional machine gun. So, yes, they did nuke the Martians in War of the Worlds. And of course, their force fields protected them. But the reason that didn't work was plot armor. And because you have to remember, the original War of the Worlds was written in the Victorian era. The Martians didn't have force fields, but we were shooting at them with cannons. In fact, the old Monitor, was it Thunderchild, actually destroyed one of them and crippled another before it was melted down by the heat ray. I actually saw, there are really good documentaries on the making of that 1953 War of the Worlds, which is still one of my favorite movies. A lot of my favorite movies were made in the 50s, at least where this kind of were science fiction. It's kind of like the original Godzilla, the original, the 1953 War of the Worlds. All of them, of course, had the Cold War nuclear genesis. That was why they were so popular. It was a metaphor. But it was good for people. And this is where Hollywood really kind of comes into its own. I know they're just trying to capitalize on it, but it was cathartic. And a lot of people feel that I may be putting too fine of a point on this, and maybe this is, kind of BS. I don't know. But I've heard people say, and it makes sense. And I mean, Japanese people say, and it makes sense that Godzilla was kind of their way of dealing with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. War of the Worlds was very popular because it helped Americans deal with their fear of the Cold War. In the end, there's a happy ending. And the aliens were impressed. Yeah, they were. And that alien, the one time you see the alien in the 1953 War of the Worlds, you got some of you guys, I'm sure, already know this. Forbidden Planet. I got to loop back to that. I finished a thought, but don't let me forget Forbidden Planet, because there's something about that that's extremely important in science fiction to this day. The alien in War of the Worlds, the people who put it together were actually the suit actors also, and they were in such a rush because they didn't like the early version. They did it overnight, and the thing was falling apart. And when he's actually pulled out when you see the Martian and run away, they're actually pulling him out with a cable. And it tore the suit apart. And it was like, that's the one shot you got. And luckily they got it good in the can. John Carpenter's, it's funny. When I saw John Carpenter's The Thing, I thought, man, this is mind blow. I showed it to my wife. You're going to love this movie. And, 30, 40 years later, she's like, that looks like, because we've been watching Face Off. Now we know how everything's done. So, that's just, vinyl and rubber and a little of this. They put it in like, you're kind of killing a magic there, buzzkill. But I looked at it, when I saw it in the 80s, it freaked me out. And now I'm kind of like, okay. The Day the Earth Stood Still was good because it was very intellectual, cerebral. And that takes us back to Forbidden Planet. My parents had told me about Forbidden Planet when I was a kid. And I was dying to see the movie. This is, back when you had to wait for it to come on the Late Late Show. I finally got to see it. And although I thought, the creature looked a little Disney cartoony, because it was, but for the time it was great. But it's another intellectual one. But what it did was it established the concept of the command triumvirate, made up of the commander, the first officer, and the doctor, which has been a common theme in science fiction ever since, including, especially what? Star Trek. So, also, although I don't think I've ever seen it, or if I have, it's been so long I don't remember it, but I was just talking with somebody the other day about I call them the Quatermass, but it's Quatermass, the Quatermass movies, The Enemy from Space. They were made on a tight budget, but apparently really well thought out movies. A lot of the old sci-fi of the 50s that we laugh at, conceptually were good ideas. Like a lot of AIP stuff, they actually had good, look at some of the people that were veterans of American International Pictures. Pretty much every big star today at some point got their start either with Corman or AIP, and they had a lot of really good ideas, but they just didn't have the money and the technical prowess to make it terribly impressive. I don't think anybody's lined up to see Astro Zombies again, but you know what? You take the actual storyline, you're like, it ain't that bad of a story. It's a cheap film, but it's, the storyline isn't really that bad. Another good one, there's a lot of good ones. Heck, any episode of The Outer Limits, would make a good movie probably, especially given like, crap, we're coming up. Okay, sorry, starting to rant. Okay, I'm just going to say it. I'll take it over the new Star Wars, yeah. Yes, there have been some Quatermass. The only one I remembered seeing was the color one with the giant crickets. But apparently, folks have told me that's actually the weakest of the installments. I think that was a Hammer film. But, Plan 9 from Outer Space is, okay, now we're talking about a genuinely bad movie. A bad concept, a poor execution. Do you know that one of those model flying saucers still exists? It's in a private collection. And it is the old, was it Lindbergh kit? It might have been Strombecker originally, but it actually was. He went and bought some of those model flying saucers, took the motors off of them, painted them all silver, put them on strength. The whole home movie, the king crap I did with my 8mm camera when I was a kid. And yes, I tried to make science fiction movies as a kid with in-camera effects because there was no editing back then. It was Super 8, baby. That's why I love the movie Super 8. Like, oh, I would have killed for a camera with a soundtrack on it. Yeah, they're classics for a reason. And Plan 9 from Outer Space, sadly, was also the last movie that Ed Wood's friend, not Lon Chaney, it was, come on, I know you guys know, I shouldn't be brain farting on this, Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi was in it. And, the Ed Wood... my favorite part of the movie, Ed Wood, was just where they were doing Plan 9 from Outer Space. You have to give Ed Wood credit, okay? He was a true independent filmmaker. The man was, you just gotta, as bad as the movies were, he got them in the cans, and he got them out there. So, props on him for that. You know what? The Mysterions, yeah. Oh God, Robot. Is that the one with the gorilla suit and the diving helmet? It's like, that made Plan 9 look good. But some of them are pretty bloody dark also. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. One I haven't seen. First Man is, I saw that where he gets, yeah. They actually blurred out where it says, they kind of blur out where it says X1 on the side because the stock footage rates, MSTK 3000, Mystery Science Theater 3000, has a lot of fun when they'll show these old movies and I go, oh, look, what is it? It said, the stock footage Air Force is here to save the day. And I was like, hey, I like that old stock footage. It was no technical errors. Glenda or Glenda. Oh, yeah. Who owned American International Pictures? Zanoff, wasn't it? And actually, there were two of them. I just watched a documentary on them recently. I'm sure somebody's going to look it up and type it in there quickly. Robinson Crusoe on Mars. I've seen that movie several times, with young Batman, Adam West. And I'm kind of like, I either love this movie or hate it. I just couldn't make up my mind. And finally one day I said, you know what? I'm just going to love it. But as teases the defense contractor. Reef. Oh, man. Yeah. Hey, Robot Jocks was actually not that bad. I mean, the movie's not going to be great when you see a bunch of television actors in a movie. Like, okay, we know what kind of budget they had. But Robot Jocks, actually, that was a true popcorn film. Just get your popcorn and enjoy it for what it is and don't take it too seriously. Don't forget the girl in that went on to play Tibbet's wife in the television series The Heat of the Night. Not the movie, but the TV series. So she went on to big things. And old Gary, what's that actor's name? Oh, God, I can see his face. Anyway. All the people went on to be. He went on to be in the television series well, first off, he played, was it Savick on Enterprise? The guy that's always always giving Archer the Vulcan that's always giving Archer a hard time. But he also, where the aliens come to Earth, they're in a prison ship that comes to Earth, and we integrate them into society with the. Mandy Patinkin was in the original with James Caan. Good Lord. I can't believe I'm forgetting the name of that. But anyway, they made a TV series about it, and the actor from RoboJocks got the lead in that. Miss Sykes. I remember the character's name, but not the crap monsters. Amazing Colossal Man. Yep. And Ricardo Montalban. Well, Alien, of course. Well, there's a book about the different designs of someone, Jerry. No. And I think it was Simon brought up last time, and I talked about it last time, was that just to reiterate that we talk a lot about UFO and everything. Apparently, Jerry Anderson, although he made a lot of great shows, he did not do it alone. And apparently he was pretty bad about cutting his wife out of the credits, even though it would say, everybody would mention Sylvia. But she was much more of a prime mover than she gets credit for. And she voiced Lady Penelope, who looked just like her. I mean, she was patterned after her. And so I'm kind of getting in the habit when everybody brings up the Century 21 stuff to make sure that Sylvia gets her due. Because she really... it just wouldn't have worked without her. And let's see, what about Forbidden Planet and Tobar the Great? Oh, Tobar the Great, yeah. Well, Forbidden Planet, in my opinion, you got a couple of movies that they're in their own category. You've got Forbidden Planet, War of the Worlds. There's a couple others that are just, they're above, they ascend above normal sci-fi into stories in their own right. Man, good Lord, I'm getting old man syndrome. I'm starting to hate myself. We were just talking about it. Klaatu. Some people might say This Island Earth. That's a little bit of a stretch. Interesting concept. They just tried to Gary Graham. Thank you. That was Gary Graham. That's who I was thinking of. Oh no. The green slime to me is the best of Italian science fiction, and that says everything that needs to be said about that. And I'm not poking. Yeah, I'm poking fun at the Italian science fiction. I'm sorry, there's no getting around it. But it has a charm that only the Italians could give it. And it's hard to put your finger on what it is. And you know, they really worked hard on these films. We kind of laugh at it today, but they worked really hard on those films. And, but I thought the green slime was Italian made. Okay. Somebody out there look that up and correct me. I thought the green slime, maybe it's just because it had Italian actors. Well, you know what? It might have been a Japanese-Italian cooperative film. Yes, original Godzilla. The Japanese Godzilla. Now, don't get me wrong. The Raymond Burr American Godzilla is good. But I put the Japanese Godzilla near the top of the list with War of the Worlds and Forbidden Planet, and The Day the Earth Stood Still. That's the one I couldn't. The Day the Earth Stood Still. And yes, Nigel, Cowboys and Aliens may be the best science fiction movie that's come down the pike in several years. I absolutely love that movie. And what I really admire about that movie was they worked really hard to make a movie that had a authentic Western feel, right down to the kind of guns they were carrying and everything, the way they dressed, how dirty everybody was, as well as a really good science fiction movie. Now, somebody here just mentioned Enemy Mine. I think that was a foreign-made film. It and The Fifth Element. When I first saw The Fifth Element, I thought this movie was ridiculous. And then I watched it a couple more times and it kind of grew on me. And after a while, I really came to like it. It's like an acquired taste. And now I love The Fifth Element. What's her name? Jojovic. Mila Jojovic. I think she married the her director and later divorced. But there was another one somebody mentioned here. My lady. Barbarella. Oh man, Jane Fonda is never living that one down, and we're not going to let her. First Predator was extremely good. I'm just reading the comments real quick. Kojira. Running Man scares me. At first I thought, this movie's great, and now look what's going on in the world. I'm like, that may be our future. Hell on the Pacific. Yes, you're absolutely right. Enemy Mine is basically Hell on the Pacific put in space. And if you haven't seen that, it's a Lee Marvin movie, and about a Japanese soldier and I believe a Marine airman that wind up on an island together. They keep taking each other prisoner until finally they realize they got to cooperate. And what scared everybody in the Time Machine was those Morlocks, and got to admit they're pretty terrifying characters. Yeah, but I know it's a comic adaptation, but it was funny. First couple of Terminators were good. Monster Hunter, yes, we watched Monster Hunter with Mila Jovovich. It's actually, she's kind of a sci-fi queen, an action queen. She kind of can't really break out of that, but that was not bad. We enjoyed it. Sharktopus. And thinking about it a lot like Sharktopus and Sharknado is those are meant to be popcorn. Yes, I understand that the BBC versions are way better than the Hammer films. The original Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea is up there as a very good one. Space Pirates or Ice Pirates? Don't forget Dark Star. Okay, Battle Beyond the Sun or Battle Beyond the Stars is the one I think of. Another one that people rag on, but it was Doppelganger. I mean, at least they were trying. And special effects are great. I remember Barbara reading the film, yeah. But the what was it? Oh yeah. Okay, Kong Skull Island. Good movie. I enjoyed it. It was just on today. But quick backstory for those who don't know. I spent 4 years in the infantry, 101st Airborne Division, and which is an air assault unit, which meant we traveled over in helicopters, and when we were on the ground, we carried it on our back. And you don't appreciate how much a person needs to get by until you have to carry your stuff on your back. And then you realize, woo, there's something to be said for traveling light. Anyway, we did not have any heavy crew-served weapons. The biggest thing we had was the M60 machine gun, which is 23.5 pounds empty. Ask me how I know. That's not including the 300 rounds of ammunition just about every other person in the squad had to carry to back up the AG, the assistant gunner. Anyway, a 50 caliber, you know, the big you see like in Brad Pitt and Fury on top of the tank. The 50 caliber, I fired those at the range. We didn't normally carry them because they were too heavy. They have to be mounted on a vehicle. Now you can put them on a tripod, but here's the deal. It's called a crew-served weapon for a purpose. The barrel on that thing has got to weigh 30, 40 pounds, and the receiver half that again, and then another 30 pounds for the tripod. That's before you get into the round. Any ammunition, which is heavy as heck, and the spare barrel, and the tool bag. I mean, there's a reason 50, technically it's canon. So it would take 4 or 5 guys with heavy loaded equipment on their back to tote a 50 caliber around, which is why they don't do that. Okay. In King Kong and Skull Island, you see the guys moving through the bush, and they got their little backpacks and their M16s, and the one sergeant's carrying the AK-47 because he's cool. And he's the very zen one. And Samuel L. Jackson had an M14 with a scope on it, because why not? So they, when they get where they're going, they're going to set up an ambush for the skull crawlers. All of a sudden, when they're sitting on the skull of that old Triceratops setting up the ambush, they've got a 50 cal. And you see them putting it together, and I'm like, whoa. Where did that come from? Because they weren't toting that earlier. Trust me, they would have been on there, they'd have been sagging with that thing on. This is 100 pounds of gun and another couple of 100 pounds of ammunition and support equipment. I'm like, where did that materialize out of? And my wife is like, seriously? You're okay with the 100-meter tall gorilla and the undiscovered island the size of Manhattan, but these guys suddenly materialize with a 50 caliber. That's your takeaway. I'm like, sorry, that's my reality. You know, a 100-meter tall gorilla I can live with, but a bunch of guys just toting a 50 cal in their pocket, that's just BS. Okay, unacceptable. And now you know what it's like to spend an evening watching a movie with Max. And by the way, yes, 50 calibers do have these, what's called the spade trigger, which you can use one or both, but use your 2 thumbs. It does not have a pull trigger. It's a and the infantry type go they don't go watch some footage of an infantry 50 cal. The aerial ones can shoot faster, like the M3s, because they got air cooling going over them and they're mounted to aircraft. I will give you $50. Hey, if you ever seen Kelly's Heroes, Don Rickles got to carry the 30 caliber. He's always crazy. Hey, why do I somebody schlepping this 30 cal? And that's a 30 cal. Oh, Buckaroo Banzai. You know, I looked for a model of Buckaroo Banzai's truck, and there was one resin company that knocked one out, and there's some guys that 3D print them. Although you can buy the oscillation overthruster, but you can't find a bobber. There's no actual kit. That's something that's just been overlooked. It would, given that it's built on a Ford truck, it wouldn't be that hard for someone to cut a mold for their other parts, or even a conversion kit, and you could sell a bunch of those. I have no doubt. I doubt getting the rights to Buckaroo Banzai, because it's pretty much a forgotten film to all but, the fans. Take care, Raymond. Thanks for joining us. Well. Make myself a little bigger there and scare the kids. So, the Mod Deuce. Yeah, things will be around forever. It wouldn't surprise me if they've got those hanging out the windows of the Starship Enterprise. So what else we got going, guys? Event Horizon. Yeah, I saw that. It was I would say it was a well acted movie. It left me kind of like, man, I don't like the way this is ending. This is a bummer, man. Event Horizon kind of started turning, I think, a little bit of a horror movie. You know, if you're gonna make a horror movie in space, make something cool like vampires on a space station. Why not just snakes on a plane? I think they did the vampires in space, didn't they? Well, the 1911 should have, but anyway. Good night, Clayton. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, a model of the ship from Event Horizon would be good. In fact, I don't think there's a spaceship model out there that wouldn't sell well. It just has such a strong following. And I think they made the Draco ships or something for Buck Rogers for a while. And Lance is pointing out they were trying to replace 50 caliber, and they came up with a thing called the M85. And I remember the M60 tanks had the M85C. And what they were trying to make was a 50 caliber that was smaller, so it could go into the commander's cupola of a tank, and without being so big. Because remember, when it's a big gun, you got to put armor around it. It makes it bigger and heavier. So they're looking for something smaller. And I remember it had that little pointy prong thing on the end of the barrel, that flash hider. The gun's always jammed, and they were never. Yes, there was, but ate enough garlic, the vampires stay away from me. And so they went back to the Mod Deuce anyway. So, life force. Those are basically, they didn't suck blood; they sucked the life out of you. And the Mark City Cal toy. Event Horizon, I think, was Lewis and Clark. Yeah, because when the ship in Prometheus, when the ship is falling and they're running as it's falling and not going sideways, I think the guys over at, what is that? They mock all the movies. Not How It Should Have Ended, but, oh, come on, guys, you know what I'm talking about. Good Lord, Max, you are losing it. Honest Trailers. And whenever someone's running away from the threat as it's coming there, instead of getting out of the way, they go, oh, they went to the Prometheus School of Running. Oh, by the way, I got something. Hold on. This is from Bruce, up in Canada. He's up in British Columbia. And he sent me something really cool that I will be getting a video out at some time on. I don't know when. First off, he sent me real photographs of his bill, so I'm going to have to scan these. And he did this beautiful bow mark, and you've got it photographed over glass, or over mirror. And he's done some other models, including this beautiful de Havilland beaver. An interesting technique, and this mossy. Oops. Okay, Max, got everything see it. This F-104 is just gorgeous. He's got several shades of aluminum on there. Beautiful work. So I'll get these scanned and get them into a viewer's build. Here's the picture of the bow mark. Figure if I can get that scanned, hopefully I can get that in the thing tomorrow. Nice work. Here's the 170. This is the 1/72nd scale. And here it is on a stand that he made that holds in place with a magnet. And he did a Concorde. Anyway, but he also sent me something else that, oh, interesting. Let me put these in a nice safe place. Okay, he sent me these articles from a magazine called RCM. And, okay, just knock everything over, Max. And their visits to various factories. This is MPC. And there's one here for visiting Revell. And just visiting Aurora. And it's got a lot of great photographs of the operations inside. So I'll see if I can't, get some of these scanned or something and do a video on those. Probably several videos. But I want to say thank you for that. That is going to. He also wrote me a nice letter with a lot of details that I will. I got this just before the live stream, so I didn't have really time to go through it. I just opened it up, looked at it real quick, but I wanted to mention that. So Bruce, if you're out there, thank you very much. This stuff will not go to waste. And I got this when I was at the Model Palooza PAMSCon 22 Polk Area Model Society. I haven't even had a chance to read it yet, but June 25, 22. Okay, so that's a year from now. We were going somewhere with this. Where was it? Oh. Would help if I put the instruction sheet back in the box, wouldn't it? And this is how we lose things. So many models. So little time. Thompson never, 30-06. The catch-all do-all of cartridges. 223 is nice when you got to carry it, but 30-06 is good when you need business. 308 is pretty good. Steve, that was all I had. You guys got anything else? Talk to me, Goose. Yeah, Chronoplons, yeah. They actually just saw there's some more kits of the Chronoplons coming out. Those things have gotten real popular over the past few years, just I think because people are dying for something new to build. And for those who don't know, a Chronoplon looks like an airplane, but it sits in the water like a boat, but it's got real stubby wings, and it's what's called a ground effect vehicle. And you get moving real fast, and it just pushes you up on a cushion of air. Not like a hovercraft, you got to be moving forward. But the problem, one of the problems that Chronoplons had was sea state. They work really well when it's relatively calm ocean, but you get a really choppy 6, 8, 9 foot swells, you got a problem. Yeah, I am planning some more history videos. I'm planning one thanks to Paul in New Zealand has been sending a lot of information on the visible kits and the insect kits, which once we started going down that rabbit hole, there was a lot more out there than we realized. I got a couple other kit model companies I want to do, but it's really getting hard to find much information on them. I did have some people send me some stuff, and I really need to get on that. Ironically, I've been building so many models and working so much, I just haven't had time to do it. But I am planning more history. Still, this channel is really a kit model history-oriented channel more than anything else. And at least that's what started it. I don't want to get away from the roots there. And there have been a few new companies that have popped up. I've actually, on 1 or 2 occasions, emailed people, fairly new companies, to ask them, but haven't heard anything back. Yeah. I am. I got up with Lucas C, and I'm probably going to send some of the vintage kits that you guys sent me to Andy for his museum. Going to donate a few kits at some point. He's trying to get cabinets and everything to set up to the kit model museum, but that stuff is expensive. I didn't realize how big an operation he had. I mean, I knew he had the storefront, but apparently he's got a warehouse and back and does shipping and stuff. So, but he's in a perfect position to do what he's to set that museum up, and I'd like to. In fact, since you asked, let me just tell you real quick what's on the list of kits that companies that I want to do. Let's see, kit model company histories. Dragon, Faller, and Panda of New Zealand. I actually have a fair amount of information on Faller, and found some good pictures. You can't find out much about the brothers who started it, Herman and Edwin, what they did during the war. Obviously, they probably don't want to talk about it, but a lot of information on what, once they started in 46. And the Fowler's still around today. I got a lot of pictures of Panda New Zealand, but not a lot of information. And I want to do it on Dragon, which being that they are actually, I have a lot of information on Dragon. That they were actually fairly researched. I've just been slacking. It's really the truth. Dragon, established in 87. Made their own designs. They want to do high quality products. So on and so forth. And they've been doing some of it under the monogram, or they're involved. Okay, this gets okay. So I need to get cracking on these. You guys are right. I'm slacking. And it's funny you should mention, where do you see the future of hobby models in general? Okay, let's talk about that. I actually was pondering this very thing and talking with somebody just the other day about it. Now, it's going to get a little long-winded, but bear with me. And disagree if you think I'm wrong. I mean, let me hear what you got to say. So, we came by at a time when most guys, World War II was not long over, and some of us, there may even be some people watching who are old enough to even remember it, although I imagine most of us are born after the war. That's why they call us boomers. We grew up in the shadow of that war. Parents and our grandparents fought in it, and they, or uncles or whatever, so we had an attachment to it. And of course, most of the countries are very patriotic and stuff, so still very pro-military, pre-Vietnam. And as a result, our love of cars, machinery, all this stuff, model building was perfect. By the 50s, when they started really getting the techniques down and getting the models like something good, that by the 60s, models were exploding. But people forget that by the late 1960s, the kit model companies were already seeing declines. It started a lot sooner than we think it did. And which is why Monogram was afraid they were going to get picked off, because mergers were already taking place and everything. And so that's why they went seeking someone like Mattel, because they were trying to get out ahead of it. By the 70s, the decline had already started. I remember buying kits in the 70s that were already, you could tell they were repops. Wasn't a lot of new stuff coming out. And even at 12 years old, I was aware of this. So I think what happens with a lot of hobbies is they get real popular for a while, then they slide off because of the new thing, then they slide off and they hit an equilibrium. All right. Happened with slot cars, mid-60s slot cars, you can't make enough of them, and then overnight like that, boom. But there's still a hardcore slot car group out there that keeps it alive. So they went, it was a bubble. Kit models had a bubble in the 60s, and it was fairly consistent up through the mid-70s, but then, you get the Vietnam War, there's a push for anti-militarism, although cars apparently were always the bulk of what was sold. I think cars made up 40% of all kit models, depending on who you want to. It's really hard to nail those numbers down. But unfortunately, I think what's affecting the model industry, and I'm going to get where I think it's going, but I got to track the background for the rest of this to make any sense. Kit models see a big boost when things like the Gunpla and the Star Wars kits. This stuff, kids relate to that. We grew up, most of us probably grew up in an era, we remember hot rods. We all wanted a 67 Chevy or something, whatever, or 55, two-door hardtop Chevy, whatever. The point is that we still buy that stuff. We love that stuff. We're going to die loving that stuff. But kids, they don't relate to it the way we do. They probably look at a 55 Chevy the way we look at a Rickenbacker. I know people who served in World War II that are still alive today. I knew a lot of people. But they're passing away, and in the next generation, the Second World War and their names will echo the way the battles of Gettysburg and Shiloh echo to us. It won't be part of their collective memory, and they'll have no real attachment to it. There'll always be a few that are interested in history. But so modeling will have to go with the popular trends, just like it always has. They sell a lot of Star Wars models. They sell a lot of Gunpla because this is what this generation grew up with. In the future, as long as they keep making models of stuff that young people can relate to, there will be a future for the hobby, because there's always going to be the artisans that want to build things. But my concern is that as 3D printing slowly starts turning into the replicator, you might see a decline not only in kit model building, but a lot of the crafts in general. So, but people have a natural creative streak. There will be people that want to do it. It will stay alive, but I don't think it'll. I think it will only continue to contract. The only saving grace is that a lot of the stuff will become ever more accurate and easy to build. But I do see a history for it in the long term, but not anything like what it was in the past. Maybe we'll be able to hold on to the currency. We seem to have hit an equilibrium. You don't hear about kit model companies going out of business these days because, in fact, there's more people getting into it. So I think it does have a future. But that's more akin to what it's doing now. The heyday is gone, and it's not coming back any more than making buggy whips. But as you know, now if you want to get kids interested in making models, one way to do that is to get the subject matter back into the pop culture, because the pop culture is controlling of a lot of this. If you can somehow get kids interested, you know, I'm sure when the movie Fury came out, sales of Sherman tanks and Tiger tanks probably swole for a while. Although that movie more appealed to, well, it did have Brad Pitt, which gave it a certain pop culture relevance, but it more appealed to the military aficionados. But I do believe that you could, the Star Wars stuff's still selling and the Gundam stuff's still selling. It's still the best-selling stuff out there. The Gundam, I mean, it blows away everything. So, you know, but you got, if you want to see the future, you got to grab the pop culture. You got to get kids interested in it, and then, you know, hey, well, would you like to build a model of that? Oh, would you like one? Well, yeah, you know, buy this die cast for $200, buy this kit for $50, and build it yourself. So, you know what, the Dune kits may wait if the movie does well, and it's, again, we don't think of it this way, but the kits we built models of were part of our pop culture. I mean, when I was at Model Palooza, they had that picture. The guy had the old was it Aurora? I think made the Cartwrights from Bonanza. You probably couldn't. I mean, we would buy them, but if you went back in production as kits, I doubt you'd sell very many, because it just doesn't resonate with the young crowd. You got old fuds like me buy one just because they love the show, but you know, they're not making any more of us. I mean, even the Indiana Jones models didn't sell very well, from my understanding, and he's about as pop culture gets, but you know, just didn't work. So what else have we got? But to answer your question, I think there is a future for modeling. I think it's along the lines of where it's at now. Like I say, I haven't heard of any model companies, any significant ones, going out of business. They're able to keep sales up. There's still enough to keep it going, but it's, whereas they used to run, they didn't start the machines unless they were going to run 50,000. Now some companies run as few as 500. A good run at a small company is probably 3,000 kits. And Atlantis has the Bonanza mold, and if they want to put it back in production, I'd probably grab one. But I don't see Rick and Pete going for that. I doubt they see the market. They are supposed to have the Keeler's Customs coming out, but I think the one they're making right now is an existing mold. It's not a new mold. That's my understanding. And although I have yet to actually see that any of them on the shelves, so believe I want to see it. Models are a great source of history, and they're a great way to teach people history. But the question is, do you get interested in history because you build the model, or you do build the model because you're interested in the history? And for me, I was always interested in the history, so that's why I built a model, and I think that's the way most people are. I missed an opportunity a few years ago when my nephew, Adam, who just went in the Army, he was actually in Navy ROTC, and he was going to build a model ship, and we got a white, we got the Oliver Hazard Perry class kit. And I should have had him build it with me, but he admits he hasn't got the focus or attention. But I was like, dadgummit, I missed. I tried. I offered to give him models, and it's, I've given a few models away to kids to get them interested, but I've yet to see one of them actually get built. But yeah. Although we have to admit, one thing about the beer bug, it has helped with model sales. Companies are selling models as fast as they can make them because everybody's cooped up in the house. So there are people who are rediscovering it or learning it for the first time. So not that I would wish the coof on anybody or this whole messed up situation, but there's the silver lining. Take what win you can get out of it. And they still, a lot of companies still make, and we're going to talk about this in the visible kits, the human eye and that stuff, in the oversized scale. And I don't think I've ever built one, but I imagine you could learn a lot from it. I'm one of those guys that sits in the doctor's office and they have those charts, with all the big Latin names for all the parts of the body, and look at it like, my God, we're complicated. Yeah, Hermano, you're right. Hermano, the Irwin Allen probably helped sell more kits than just about anybody out there. And the Master of Disaster. And, but probably the very best kits. Well, no, I got to back off on that. Everybody's got their thing. And like me, I'll model anything. I'll build anything you send to me. But did Harrison Ford learn this? I don't know, maybe. Take care, Dave. Thanks for joining. I'm going to be shutting down here in about 5-10 minutes anyway. We're going on. I promised my wife 2 hours. And the RC kits are actually doing quite well because they're interactive. And I see a lot of kids with the model cars and a few of them with model airplanes. Drones, of course, are popular. Technology changes. Of course, thanks to the drones, we now have all this regulation, but that's another story. Oh, yes. So, I was going to say the best kits are ones, obviously, that grab the imagination. And everybody's imagination is different. TD, Tom Daniel kits were extremely popular because they grabbed the imagination. A lot of car people who were just kind of like, well, I've built all the Chevys I can build, and I've built all the tanks I can build. And here's something new and wild and different that grabbed the imagination. Big Daddy Roth, Ratfink, and the rest of them. Some of them were just, which my understanding was I've heard that was just his middle finger to Disney and Mickey Mouse. Apparently there's a story there I know nothing about. But the idea, though, is that he's like, why is this weird thing so popular? Probably because it reeked of anti-establishment. Who knows? It grabbed the imagination. Then you got the kids like me that always want to be pilots. So spaceships and airplanes grab imagination. You got every gearhead out there, the cars. Grabbing the imagination is what's key to selling the models. And what does that? Box art. Not a picture of a built model on the cover. That's nice, but it's not particularly inspiring. But, box art. You get a subject matter someone's interested in, and you get that box art that's got that certain je ne sais quoi that makes them want to leap into that picture, then you sell models. If you're going to spend money on something, once you get your molds, spend it on a good artist. And every artist has his own style. Jack Linwood had that cram the box, and nobody cares about wingtips. That airplane was up in your face. And you guys know that Spitfire is still my favorite box art. It made me want to be the number 3 man in that group going after that Messerschmitt that's running away from them. And a lot of the more stylized paintings also this one right here. I mean, you and I both know no one's going to be that close to the bloody missile when it goes off. But it just looks cool. That makes me want to be out there at White Sands launching rockets against the sky that probably never looked like that. But it doesn't matter. It grabs your imagination. And when you get into it, you have fun. And when you're done, you got this thing that you made. You made that. And doesn't have to be perfect. Just has to make you happy. Well, guys, I'm going to call it a wrap for the night. I'm going to loop my little fan film intro here. And so you guys can chat amongst yourselves for a little while I shut things down. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Wow, we were like 118 people at one point. I can't believe that. I hope you guys are having fun. That's really my sole goal. And so tomorrow, probably noonish, I'll start finishing up and getting the Cold War missile build out. Next one is cars, and they will be due, I'm going to say probably December 19th or so, so that I can, I'm going to try and get the Caterham Super Lotus done and the Johan kit, but I'm not making any promises. Might even try for the Monkeys Mobile also if I can get this done in time. And remember, if you don't make the deadline, I can always, if a bunch more pictures show up, I can just make an addendum, a second one, or I can put them in the viewers' builds. Again, it's all for fun, guys. If you miss it, don't sweat it. All right. Have a good time. Take care of yourselves, guys. I hope everyone's doing well, and I really, once again, I really appreciate your tuning in. Hope you're having a good time, and as always, model on.
emotions